A man can spend his entire life believing he is free, while living inside a prison he built himself, not a prison made of iron bars, not a prison guarded by soldiers, a prison made of comfort. And that prison is far more dangerous, because at least a man behind bars knows he is trapped. Most people never realize it. They wake up each morning believing they are choosing their lives, believing they are making decisions, believing they are in control, yet every day follows the same pattern, the same habits, the same excuses, the same distractions, the same promises made and broken before sunset, and slowly, without noticing, they surrender their future, not through catastrophe, not through tragedy, but through comfort. Marcus Aurelius understood something that most people never learn. The greatest threat to a man's life is not suffering, it is comfort. Because suffering demands growth, comfort demands nothing. Suffering forces you to adapt. Comfort encourages you to remain exactly as you are, and that is why comfort is so seductive. It whispers instead of screams. It offers relief instead of resistance. It feels harmless, even helpful, until years pass and you discover the cost. Imagine a young man standing at the edge of a road. Two paths stretch before him. The first path is steep, difficult, uncertain. The road climbs through mountains, storms wait ahead, obstacles stand everywhere. The second path is smooth, easy, comfortable, no resistance, no struggle, no challenge. Which path do most people choose? The easy one. Of course they do. It feels logical, it feels safe, it feels pleasant. But what they do not realize is that every easy choice carries an invisible price. And that price is paid later. The difficult path hurts now. The comfortable path hurts later. Marcus Aurelius saw this truth repeatedly throughout his life. Before becoming emperor, he spent years studying philosophy. While others pursued entertainment and luxury, he pursued discipline. While others sought comfort, he sought understanding, because he understood something important. A comfortable life does not create a strong mind. A strong mind creates a meaningful life. And there is a difference. Most people chase comfort because they believe comfort will make them happy. But happiness built upon comfort is fragile. Remove the comfort and happiness disappears. Remove the convenience and peace disappears. Remove the distractions and suddenly a person is left alone with themselves, and that is when the truth emerges. Because many people are not avoiding hard work. They are avoiding themselves. Think carefully about your own life. How often do you reach for distraction the moment silence appears? How often do you check your phone without purpose? How often do you consume content simply to avoid thinking? How often do you postpone important work because it feels uncomfortable? The answer matters, because every time you choose distraction over growth, you strengthen a habit, and habits become identity. Identity becomes destiny. This is how comfort slowly steals a life. Not in dramatic moments, in ordinary moments. The alarm rings. Comfort says sleep a little longer. The task feels difficult. Comfort says start tomorrow. The workout feels exhausting. Comfort says take today off. The conversation feels uncomfortable. Comfort says avoid it. The opportunity feels risky. Comfort says stay safe. And because comfort sounds reasonable, most people listen again and again and again until years have passed. Then one day they look around and wonder why their life never changed. The answer is simple. Their choices never changed. Marcus Aurelius wrote many reminders to himself, not because he lacked wisdom, because he understood how easily the mind drifts. Every day he fought the temptation to become softer. Every day he reminded himself of duty, responsibility, discipline, purpose. He knew that comfort was not merely a physical experience. It was a mental habit, a way of thinking, a way of avoiding, a way of escaping responsibility. And the more you practice comfort, the weaker you become. Not physically, internally. Your tolerance for discomfort shrinks. Your patience shrinks. Your resilience shrinks. Your discipline shrinks. Eventually, even small challenges feel overwhelming. A difficult conversation feels unbearable. A demanding project feels impossible. A temporary setback feels catastrophic. Not because the challenge is enormous, because your capacity has become small. Comfort does that. It reduces a person's capacity to endure. And without endurance, potential remains trapped. There is a story told about a young Roman soldier. Before his first campaign, he dreamed of glory. He imagined victory, recognition, honor. But when winter arrived and hardship followed, his dreams changed. The cold was relentless. Food was scarce. The marches were exhausting. Every day tested him. Many soldiers complained. Some quit. Others wished to return home. But over time, something remarkable happened. The hardships that once seemed unbearable became normal. The discomfort that once dominated his thoughts lost its power. His body adapted, his mind adapted, his character adapted. Months later, he was no longer the same man. The hardship had transformed him, not because suffering is magical, because resistance creates growth. The same principle applies to your life. The difficult things you avoid today may contain the growth you desperately need, the conversation you fear, the discipline you resist, the habit you postpone, the responsibility you keep delaying. Those things are not obstacles. They are opportunities, opportunities disguised as discomfort. Yet most people never discover this. They spend years organizing their lives around avoiding discomfort, and then wonder why they never become stronger. Strength requires resistance. Just as muscles require weight, character requires challenge. There is no other path. Marcus Aurelius knew this. That is why he never measured life by comfort. He measured it by virtue, by discipline, by integrity, by courage, because those qualities survive hardship. Comfort does not. Comfort disappears the moment circumstances change. Character remains. And character is what determines your future. Not talent, not luck, not intelligence. Character, the ability to do what must be done regardless of how you feel. The ability to continue when motivation vanishes. The ability to remain disciplined when nobody is watching. Most people misunderstand discipline. They think discipline is punishment, restriction, suffering. But Marcus Aurelius saw it differently. Discipline was freedom. Freedom from impulse. Freedom from distraction. Freedom from weakness. Freedom from becoming a slave to comfort. And that freedom created power. Not power over others, power over himself. Which is far more important, because a man who cannot control himself will eventually lose control of everything else. His focus, his goals, his relationships, his future, everything begins with self-mastery. Everything. The tragedy is that many people never discover this until it is too late. They spend decades choosing comfort. Then suddenly they find themselves facing regret. Regret for opportunities ignored. Regret for dreams abandoned. Regret for potential wasted. And regret is heavier than discomfort ever was. Much heavier. That is why you must understand something right now. Your comfort is not protecting you. It is costing you. Costing you growth. Costing you confidence. Costing you discipline. Costing you the person you could become. Everyday comfort takes a small piece. A little ambition. A little courage. A little resilience. Until eventually you become a stranger to your own potential. But the good news is this. The process can be reversed. Just as comfort compounds, discipline compounds. Every difficult choice makes the next difficult choice easier. Every promise kept strengthens self-trust. Every act of courage expands your capacity. Every moment of discipline builds momentum. And momentum changes lives. The transformation does not happen overnight. Marcus Aurelius knew that. The strongest oak does not appear in a day. It grows slowly, quietly, patiently. The same is true for character. The same is true for discipline. The same is true for greatness. The question is not whether you are capable. You are. The question is whether you are willing to leave comfort behind. Because comfort always demands a sacrifice, and the sacrifice is your future. The moment you understand that, everything begins to change. That is exactly the lesson a young Roman named Lucius was about to learn. A lesson that would force him to confront the most dangerous enemy he had ever faced. Not an army, not a rival, not fate itself, but the comfortable version of himself he had spent years becoming. And when that battle began, nothing in his life would ever remain the same. Lucius was not a weak man, at least that is what he believed. He was young, healthy, educated, the son of a respected Roman family. He had opportunities many men would have envied. From the outside, his future looked promising. But Marcus Aurelius would have understood something Lucius did not yet see. A man's greatest weakness is rarely visible. It hides beneath appearances, beneath potential, beneath excuses, and often it hides beneath comfort. The first betrayal happened quietly, so quietly that Lucius barely noticed it. It happened on a cold morning before sunrise. The kind of morning when darkness still covered the city. The kind of morning that demanded discipline. The alarm servant knocked softly against his chamber door, as instructed. Lucius opened his eyes. For a moment he remembered his promise. The day before he had sworn to himself that things would change. He would rise early, train harder, study longer, waste less time, become stronger, become worthy of the future he imagined. For a brief moment his resolve felt real. Then comfort spoke, not loudly, not dramatically, softly, reasonably. 1 more hour, that was all. Just 1 hour. The bed was warm, the room was cold. No harm in resting a little longer. After all, tomorrow would still come. His goals would still be there. His ambitions would still exist. 1 hour could not matter that much. So he closed his eyes and surrendered. When he woke again, sunlight filled the room. Half the morning was gone. The training session had been missed. The study period was lost. The promise had been broken. And yet something worse had happened. Something invisible. Something dangerous. His mind had learned a lesson. A lesson repeated by millions of people every day. It learned that his comfort mattered more than his word. Most people think discipline is about results. It is not. Discipline is about trust. Every promise you keep strengthens trust. Every promise you break weakens it. Lucius did not understand this yet, so he shrugged, made excuses, promised himself he would do better tomorrow. But tomorrow arrived, and comfort returned, again and again and again. Weeks passed. Nothing changed. His ambitions remained powerful in his imagination, but weak in reality. This is the trap many people never escape. They fall in love with the vision, but avoid the process. They love imagining success, but resist becoming the person capable of creating it. Marcus Aurelius warned himself constantly against this kind of self-deception, because he understood that intentions are meaningless without action. A man is not what he plans. A man is what he repeatedly does. Lucius still believed he was disciplined, still believed he was destined for greatness, still believed his future would somehow arrive. But reality was telling a different story. His habits were creating a different future, one built from delay, excuses, comfort, avoidance. The strange thing about comfort is that it rarely feels dangerous. A thief announces his presence. An enemy raises a sword. A storm darkens the sky. Comfort does none of these things. It smiles, it reassures, it tells you there is always tomorrow, and that lie destroys more potential than failure ever could. One afternoon, Lucius visited an older philosopher who occasionally taught young Romans. The man was not wealthy, not famous, not powerful, yet there was something about him, a calmness, a steadiness, a strength that seemed untouched by circumstance. Lucius admired it, so he asked a question. What is the greatest obstacle to becoming exceptional? The old philosopher smiled, then answered immediately. Comfort. Lucius frowned. Surely there were greater obstacles: bad luck, poverty, competition, failure, but comfort? The philosopher seemed to read his thoughts. You think comfort is harmless because it feels pleasant. Tell me, what destroys a blade faster? One great battle or years of neglect? Lucius remained silent. The philosopher continued. Most men fear hardship. They should fear comfort. Comfort dulls. Hardship reveals character. Comfort hides weakness. Hardship demands growth. Comfort demands surrender. Those words stayed with Lucius. At first he resisted them, like most people do, because uncomfortable truths threaten comfortable identities, and Lucius was still attached to his identity. The identity of a man who believed he was capable, without proving it. The identity of a man who admired discipline, without practicing it. The identity of a man who respected strength, without developing it. Then came the day that changed everything, the day of the race. Every year, young men from several Roman families participated in physical competitions: running, wrestling, endurance, tests of skill and determination. Lucius entered confidently. After all, he considered himself talented, naturally gifted, different from ordinary men. Yet when the competitions began, reality appeared. The men who won were not more talented, they were more prepared. The men who excelled were not more fortunate, they were more disciplined. The men standing victorious had paid a price Lucius had avoided. While he had chosen comfort, they had chosen growth. While he had slept longer, they had trained earlier. While he had delayed effort, they had repeated it. While he had protected comfort, they had embraced discomfort. The results were undeniable, humiliating, painful, necessary. For the first time, Lucius saw the gap, not between himself and others, between who he imagined himself to be and who he actually was. That realization hurt, but pain can be useful. Sometimes pain reveals truths comfort hides. That night he sat alone, no distractions, no excuses, no illusions, only honesty, and honesty revealed something difficult. He had spent years betraying himself, not through dramatic failures, not through catastrophic mistakes, through small daily decisions: the extra hour of sleep, the skipped workout, the delayed responsibility, the endless promise of tomorrow. Each decision seemed insignificant, yet together they had created his current reality, and reality never lies. That was the moment the war truly began. Not a war against circumstances, not a war against other people, a war against the comfortable version of himself. Because Lucius finally understood something Marcus Aurelius knew deeply. The strongest chains are invisible, and comfort had wrapped itself around his life, one decision at a time. The frightening part was realizing how long he had mistaken those chains for freedom. But awareness changes everything. Once you see the prison, you can no longer pretend it does not exist. And for the first time in his life, Lucius saw it clearly. The soft prison, the comfortable prison, the prison he had built himself. And standing before its gates, he made a decision that would change the course of his life, a decision most people never make. He would stop negotiating with weakness, no matter the cost, no matter the discomfort, no matter how difficult the road became, because he had finally discovered the truth. Comfort was not protecting him. Comfort was slowly destroying him, and the next morning, the real test would begin. The next morning arrived exactly as every morning before it: dark, cold, uncomfortable. Nothing about the world had changed. The only thing that had changed was Lucius, or at least the decision he carried within him. Before dawn, the familiar knock sounded against his chamber door. His eyes opened immediately, and almost instantly, comfort returned, just as it always had. You slept late, you can start tomorrow, you deserve more rest. One day won't matter. The voice was familiar. For years he had obeyed it. For years he had mistaken it for reason, but now he saw it clearly. It was negotiation, and negotiation had stolen years of his life. Marcus Aurelius understood something few people understand. Most battles are won or lost before action ever begins. They are won inside the mind. The moment you begin negotiating with weakness, you have already stepped toward surrender. Lucius sat upright. His body wanted warmth, his mind wanted comfort, his habits wanted familiarity. But he stood anyway. No debate, no discussion, no negotiation, just action. The moment his feet touched the cold floor, something unexpected happened. The discomfort remained, but its power weakened. He had always believed discomfort was the enemy. Now he realized hesitation was the enemy. The anticipation was often worse than the action itself. As the weeks passed, he repeated this lesson, again and again and again. When training became difficult, he continued. When studying became exhausting, he continued. When progress felt invisible, he continued, not because he enjoyed suffering, because he had finally understood a truth that Marcus Aurelius lived by. What stands in the way becomes the way. The obstacle was the training. The obstacle was the discipline. The obstacle was the discomfort, and yet those very obstacles were transforming him. Months later, people began noticing changes. Not dramatic changes, not overnight transformation, something deeper. His posture changed, his focus sharpened, his confidence became quieter, more stable. He no longer spoke endlessly about what he intended to do, he simply did it. And that difference separated him from most men. Most people talk about change, few people practice it. One afternoon, the same philosopher who had warned him about comfort saw him walking through the city. The old man studied him for a moment, then smiled. "You look different." Lucius nodded. "I feel different." The philosopher asked him a question. "What changed?" Lucius thought carefully, then answered, "I stopped waiting to feel ready." The old man laughed softly. "Then you have learned what most never learn, because readiness is a myth. Confidence comes after action, not before. Strength comes after resistance, not before. Discipline comes after repetition, not before. Too many people wait for a future version of themselves to save them. They wait for motivation, for certainty, for inspiration, for perfect circumstances, and while they wait, life passes." Lucius had stopped waiting. That was the difference. Years later, greater challenges arrived. Financial setbacks, loss, disappointment, moments that would have shattered the younger version of him. But now something was different. His character had been forged, not through comfort, through resistance. The man who once struggled to leave a warm bed could now endure hardships that once seemed impossible. Not because life became easier, because he became stronger. That is the lesson Marcus Aurelius spent his life teaching. You do not become powerful by controlling the world. You become powerful by controlling yourself. You do not build confidence through positive thinking. You build confidence through kept promises. You do not create a meaningful future through intention. You create it through action, every day, every choice, every habit. Most people spend their lives searching for freedom, yet they never discover where freedom truly exists. Freedom is not doing whatever you want. Freedom is no longer being controlled by your impulses. Freedom is waking up and doing what matters even when you do not feel like it. Freedom is choosing discipline over comfort, again and again, until discipline becomes identity, and identity becomes destiny. Years later, Lucius stood overlooking the hills beyond Rome. The sun was setting, the same way it had set thousands of times before, the same way it would continue setting long after he was gone. And as he watched the fading light, he thought about the man he used to be, the man trapped inside the soft prison, the man who always planned but never acted, the man who mistook comfort for happiness. The man who believed tomorrow would solve what today refused to confront. That man felt distant now, almost like a stranger. Not because one moment changed everything, because thousands of small moments had. Thousands of mornings, thousands of decisions, thousands of opportunities to surrender, and thousands of opportunities to continue. That is how transformation happens, slowly, quietly, repeatedly, until one day the person you once were no longer exists. Marcus Aurelius knew this. Greatness is not built in extraordinary moments. It is built in ordinary moments repeated consistently. The alarm that rings before dawn, the workout you do not want to complete, the responsibility you do not want to face, the promise you choose to keep. Those moments appear insignificant, yet they shape entire lives. Comfort never disappeared from Lucius's life. Temptation never disappeared. Distraction never disappeared. But they no longer controlled him. Because he had learned the ultimate Stoic lesson. Comfort is not the reward. Character is. And character is earned every day for the rest of your life. The truth is simple. Your comfort is killing your potential. Not all at once, one excuse at a time, one delay at a time, one avoided responsibility at a time. But the opposite is also true. Your discipline can rebuild your potential. One action at a time, one promise at a time, one difficult decision at a time. The choice has always been yours. It still is. Because right now, as you read these words, the same battle exists inside you. The battle between comfort and growth, between excuses and responsibility, between the person you are and the person you could become. And every decision you make from this moment forward casts a vote for weakness, or a vote for strength. Choose carefully, because your future is listening.